Hello, this is Matt Simmons, and I am here on April 15th, 2014 at 12:08 in the afternoon with Spyros Svoronos, and we are here to talk about the Integrated Product and Process Design program and the engineering program. And so I'm going to just start out by asking you a little bit about your educational background, perhaps where you did your studies before getting involved in the program, where you went to school, and who some of your mentors were as perhaps an undergraduate or a graduate student.
Okay. First of all, where I am right now,
Okay.
I'm in the Department of Chemical Engineering, where I have been since the beginning of 1982. Mm-hmm. So I've been here 33 years. And I'm also the undergraduate coordinator of our program and professor. I got my PhD at a very special place, the University of Minnesota, and I was extremely lucky to be co-advised by two very special people. One is George Stephanopoulos, not a politician, or I guess newsman now, whatever. He was perhaps the best communicator. He is perhaps the best communicator that I have ever met. And it was an absolutely great experience. And my other co-advisor is Rutherford Harris, was Rutherford Harris. He unfortunately passed. One, perhaps, of the most famous chemical engineers ever. He was the true scholar. I will never forget the time where he came late to the seminars, huffing and puffing, etc. A wild gleam of excitement in his eyes. And he basically yelled, "Eureka!" So what is this very famous chemical engineer getting so excited about? Well, he was basically an absolute master in Latin and also actually classical Greek, etc. And he was perusing an ancient Latin manuscript, and there was a folded dog ear. And he unfolded, and there was something interesting written behind it. That was Rutherford Harris. So it was a great experience for me. I had two absolutely fantastic advisors, and they made me want to become a professor and teach. So they played a crucial role in me being here.
Okay, great, great. At the beginning of IPPD, you were part of a task force that was formed to come to a consensus on the program. Can you tell us a little bit about that experience, serving on that task force?
I can tell you quite a bit. Of course, the father of IPPD is Heinz Fridrich. And Heinz Fridrich was a senior IBM vice president. He was heading all the European operations. He had, I think, in the hundreds of thousands of people under him. So he retired from IBM. His wife is American. He bought a retirement home in Amelia Island, and he approached UF saying, "Okay, I have retired close here. I would like to offer you guys something." And so the college put him in contact with the task force of several faculty members, of which I was one. And so this collaboration started. And I still remember the shock in Heinz's face when he called a meeting. And some members of the task force didn't show up. Some showed up 5, 10 minutes late. This is a man who was here snapping his finger, and immediately everybody running, "What do you need?" So it was quite a learning experience. But Heinz is a very, very special person. He adapted, extremely dynamic, extremely creative. He didn't know how to do teaching. He wasn't a teacher. He took the road, visited places after places after places that were teaching multidisciplinary design, learned a lot, and what he created was a beautiful thing. My beginning job in the task force was actually to write a proposal that got us the beginning funding from an NSF-sponsored organization of several universities called Succeed. Heinz was very busy visiting, etc., so I wrote the proposal without without Heinz seeing it. It was good enough to get us the money, but when finally Heinz read it, that's not the way to do it, Spyros. Went in the wastebasket where it belonged, and we did it the right way. So,
okay.
But Heinz Fridrich is the reason why we're here today. An absolutely dynamic individual, a very special person who has given a lot, and he deserves all the accolades for the success of IPPD.
Okay. What do you think is the biggest difference between IPPD when you first started and IPPD as it exists now in its current form?
So one of the right things that Heinz did was to select his successor, Keith Stanfill. And the one significant improvement that Keith has accomplished is to really improve the teaching experience, the educational experience for the students. It was always a great course, but at the beginning it was structured more like a conventional course. It was meeting 3 times a week, one period, which is not very conducive for doing longer-term tasks and hands-on learning for certain things. So Keith really revolutionized the curriculum and very much improved it. I think it's now an absolutely great classroom experience for our students too. And I think this is also backed up with the feedback from the students.
Okay. What are some of the IPPD time-honored traditions?
Yeah, that question, when I first saw it, had me totally stumped. But I would say probably flexibility and trusting the coaches. I've been coaching almost every year 2 projects since almost the beginning. And every project is different, every team has different dynamics, and so on. So IPPD has a certain blueprint that teams are supposed to follow, but that is not always optimal. And it always allows the flexibility to the coaches to change the blueprint for the teams. And as a matter of fact, recently, this has become institutionalized. So I think that's part of the strength of IPPD.
Okay. Describe a time when one of your IPPD students gained value from the program.
I'm sure there are many, many times, but I guess I'll take an example from my present team. I have a student who, one of the things that we absolutely try to improve is the student's communication skills. International student, a bit hesitant, not the greatest communication skills at the very beginning. And one of the things that we do is we have a weekly teleconference with industry sponsors. And what I personally do, instead of having the team leader always be the leading person of the conversation, I rotate the students. So this student at the beginning, extremely hesitant, etc. I saw her absolutely blossom. Right now, her communication skills are absolutely outstanding. Any interviewer who hears her talk, I think will hire her. So the development of someone who's very hesitant, and also she gained a lot of confidence. So I see often students very markedly progress and getting confidence in themselves. After all, at the beginning, the task seems to them almost impossible in many cases, and yet they succeed. That helps a lot.
And are a large percentage of your students, are they coming from overseas or international programs?
No, most students are, of course, US students. And a lot of, some of our projects have restrictions because they're defense-oriented where only US citizens can work on them. But me dealing mostly with chemical engineering-related projects, that is not an issue. So my teams tend to have a higher percentage of international students than.
Okay, okay. What are the top attributes of an IPPD coach? What makes a good IPPD coach?
I would say understanding that every team is different. Every team has different strengths and different weaknesses. You cannot just have a formula and go and coach every team with the same formula. You have to really learn your students and adapt to basically help develop their strengths and also distribute tasks so the strengths of the team are emphasized and the weaknesses are diminished.
Okay, and then kind of the corollary to that would be, what are the top attributes of an IPPD student? So what makes a good student on the other end of the relationship?
I would say responsibility. Every student has skills. They are not the same. It's interesting, before ever coaching IPPD, my opinion of my students was totally related to GPA, how well they were doing in my exams. I definitely had much higher opinion of the 4.0 students than of the 3.0 students. IPPD taught me that perhaps a team of 4.0 students would be a very bad team. You need a mix of different skills. You do need the strong analytical skills that correlate with GPA, but you also need good soft people skills. You need good team skills. You need good organizational skills. You need good practical hands-on skills. Very rarely an individual will combine all of those skills. So every student has skills. They wouldn't be in IPPD if they haven't skills. And basically, you need to kind of assign to a student tasks that optimize her or his skills. Also, the other thing I will say here is nobody knows everything. So students also should not be hesitant to ask for help from the coach if he or she can offer it, from other faculty members, if not, and also from liaison engineers who play a critical role in IPPD.
Okay. If you could say one thing to the IPPD community and to future engineers, what would it be?
I will use an old cliche. It's always darkest before the dawn. When they first start, the team is very excited about the project, but they haven't really realized how difficult the project usually is. So in almost every single case, there comes a time in a project where it looks like, how can we succeed? So that's why have the hope, and eventually the large majority of the teams are successful. So it's an old cliche, but you will have frustrations during the IPPD project, but the overwhelming chances are that you'll succeed.
So just being aware that the future might be brighter than you think, that's helpful.
Yes.
Okay. Can you describe the IPPD program in one word, or perhaps more than one word?
I will use one word.
Okay.
3-lettered word. Fun. IPPD is the only class, but both for the students and for the coach, is the only class I've ever had to ask a student to stop working in IPPD. The projects, particularly once you find the way, start becoming so much fun, at least for many students, if not the majority of the students, that I've seen students spend inordinate amount of time on IPPD, and I get worried, how are the other classes going?
Oh, wow, that's incredible.
And for coaches too, even when I was interim chair of our department, I did not stop coaching IPPD. I reduced my normal 2 teams a year to only 1, but this is something that's so much fun that I don't want to stop doing.
Okay. And so your overall impression of the IPPD program kind of goes along with that, or?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Is there anything else that you'd like to add about the program or your experiences with the program, or maybe another anecdote about a student or just anything that comes to mind?
Sorry, no.
Okay. All right. Well, that's fine. Thank you so much for being here with us. This concludes our interview. I'm Matt Simmons, and I was here speaking with Spyros Svoronos about the IPPD program here at the University of Florida.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Ooh.